Hello, this is Satish Reddy, Department of English, MVS Degree College, Mehboob Nagar. Most of us at our leisure, what do we do at our home? The obvious answer is watching TV. It is not the problem with adults, but our children at home are addicted to watching television. Most of their time is spent on watching television. And it has become extremely difficult for parents to wean their children away from watching television. It is ruining their creativity. It is taking away their thinking capacity. And it is killing their imagination. Most of the parents, do find it very hard to really how to deviate their children's attention or how to wean them away from watching television, and which is killing their imagination, their creativity. No sports, no games, no enjoyment, nothing at all. Watching, and being addicted to that idiot box. So here is a great challenge, how to really, wean our children away from this kind of addiction. But what did we do in the past when we didn't have television at our home? When there was no television set at our home, most of us used to read books. That habit has gone. That is no longer there. Now everybody, children, adults as well, are getting addicted to watching television. So here is a poet who is trying to answer this hard question and who is appealing to all of us. How can it be done? How can we wean our children away from watching television? How can we save our children from watching television? That poet is Roald Dahl. So let's see his poem. Let's understand and let's search for an alternative. So here is a poem which really appeals very earnestly to all parents, to all of us. What can be done to save our children? What's the ultimate solution for the problem? And the poem Television offers wonderful solution. And this poem is written by Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl was a British novelist, short story writer, fighter pilot, and screenwriter. Was widely recognized as one of the greatest storytellers for children of the 20th century. And his books mainly deal with fantasy and a make-believe world and a thrilling mixture of grotesque and the comic. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the BFG, and Matilda are among his most popular children's novels that have also been made into films. And he also published more than a dozen collections of short stories. In 2008, the well-known newspaper, The Times, placed him 16th on the list of the 50 greatest British writers since 1945. His main aim in writing is to entertain and edify his young readers. So he uses a light, amusing tone most of the time. His children's books champion the kind-hearted and castigate the inhuman villains. Most of his works have been translated in several languages of the world. Among the important awards he received were the 1983 World Fantasy Award for Life Achievement and the British Book Award as Children's Author of the Year in 1990. But what's all about this poem, the present poem, Television? What does it offer to us? It is one of Roald Dahl's best known poems. And using his characteristic humor, Dahl criticizes children's addiction to television. It's a long didactic poem in a light tone with a message that is relevant in our times. It is an earnest appeal to parents to wean their children from watching television to reading of books. In their craze for the idiot box, children have lost their innocence. And this poem also highlights the negative impact of television on young minds and warns that too much television can kill the imagination of children. As an alternative, the Dahl proposes reading books as a healthier alternative to watching television. And he advises all the parents to wean their children away from television if they want their children to grow up with healthy minds and healthy bodies. He's confident that once children overcome their initial resistance and discover the pleasures of reading, they will thank their parents for introducing them to the world of imagination. Let's read it aloud. The most important thing we have learned so far as children are concerned is never, never let them near your television set. What we have learned so far is that the very important lesson as far as children are concerned, that we should never, never let them near your television set. Or better still, just don't install the idiot thing at all. And before that, instead of allowing your children or facing the question of, allowing your children or permitting your children near the television sets, first of all, let us not install that idiot box at all. So this is what he says. Then in almost every house we have watched them gaping at the screen. See, it is a common sight that children at every home are seen every time, most of the time, gaping at the screen with their, mouth wide open, with their eyes and mouth wide open. They loll and slop and lounge about and stare until their eyes pop out. So they watch it for quite a long time until, they loll and slop and lounge about and stare until their eyes pop out, as if, eyes come out. And he was humorously, telling us, as if he has seen that last week in someone's place, we saw a dozen eyeballs on the floor. They sit and stare and sit until they are hypnotized by it. But how long do they watch television? There is no limit at all, and they keep on watching and watching and watching. They sit and stare and sit until they are hypnotized by it, as if they are hypnotized by that idiot box. They go on watching it for quite a long time. And with all that shocking, ghastly junk, until they're hypnotized by it, until they're absolutely drunk, as if they're drunk with all that shocking, ghastly junk. And whatever that television offers to them, and whatever they watch on television, it's nothing but, useless junk, and it is of no use. Oh yes, we know it keeps them still, but yes, we know that it helps them. It keeps them still. They don't climb out the windowsill. But children are supposed to be very mischievous, and they are supposed to play, they are supposed to enjoy, they are supposed to enjoy themselves, playing, doing all naughty things, and by being mischievous. But they're no longer doing it because they are addicted to this idiot box. So they're not climbing out the windowsills, and they're not at all fighting, they're not kicking each other, they're not punching each other. They leave you free to cook the lunch. He says, yes, it is true that uh, by being, addict to that idiot box, and this is paving the way for parents to take care of their, their own activities at their home. So it is indirectly helping their parents. They're not at all, disturbed by their children, because they're simply, sitting in front of that idiot box and watching it for hours together. Then they never fight or kick or punch, but usually, their tendency is to fight, and they usually kick other people, punching, like doing all sorts of, things. They leave you free to cook the lunch and wash the dishes in the sink. Now you're free, you're no longer disturbed by your children, and you can take care of your, your own activities, like washing dishes and cooking the lunch. Then but did you ever stop to think? Did you have time to think over it, to wonder just exactly what this does to your beloved tot, your tiny child? Does it really help them? Is it really doing good to them? Is it in any way harming them? Have you ever thought of it? Did you have time to think over it? So he's questioning us. It rots the sense in the head. He says it rots the sense in the head of the children, and it kills imagination dead. It clogs and clutters up the mind. It makes a child so dull and blind. So here, as they are engaged every time, watching television, with the stuff that they watch, and the meaningless things that television offers. But, this is contrary to what happens when, when we read something interesting. So here, Dahl says, it kills their imagination. It makes them watchers, but not thinkers. Then, this is, if the children are possessed of keen imagination, but here the poet is distressed to find that children, who begin to prefer television watching to reading of books, accept only things which are visible. They are attracted to visible things. Then, with no alternative, with no other alternative, these children are forced to watch television. It makes a child so dull and blind. The children become dull, not literally, but it makes them so dull and blind. They don't see anything beyond that. They don't think of any other thing in this world, and they can no longer understand the fantasy or fairyland. These stories are not enjoyed by them, and these stories are not at all narrated to them by anyone. So they are simply watching television. Then what happens as a result of that? Just, it is simply killing their imagination, their creative, their creativity, and their creative energy. So it is making them very dull and blind. Then, as a result of that, their children are becoming, without any creative energy or, thinking capacity. So it should be a major concern of all parents, because television watching is a passive activity. Obviously, we know that it blocks fresh thinking, and it makes the child or viewer dull, and he cannot distinguish, between the real and the fantastic. And his, brain becomes as soft as cheese. And he, all right, he says fantasy of fairyland, his brain becomes as soft as cheese, and he loses the power to think and imagine things. His powers of thinking rust and breeze. So a child loses his, uh, capacity, power to think and imagine things. And this has been confirmed by many, independent researchers too. There are surveys which confirmed this. And all right, you'll cry, all right, you will say, but if we take the set away, what shall we do to entertain our darling children? Please explain. But at the same time, poet is also aware of the parents' objection. If parents, and he knows that, parents will certainly ask him, if television set is removed, if it is taken away, there will be no means left with them to entertain their children. And they'll like to know as to how to entertain them. Then here the poet retorts by asking them a rhetorical question as to how they used to entertain themselves as children. What did they do when they were in their childhood? What did they do? Because when there was no television set at all, but if we take the set away, what shall we do to entertain? This is a question from parents. We'll answer this by asking you, what used the darling ones to do? How used they keep themselves contented before this monster was invented? So in your childhood, it was not there. This monster was not there. And what did you do? What was that thing which kept you busy? Then as children, they used to read and read and read. The nursery shelves were full of books. Surprisingly, they would spend half of their lives reading books. How used they keep themselves contented before this monster was invented? Have you forgotten? Don't you know? Don't you remember? Have you forgotten this? We'll say it very loud and loud. They used to read, read, and read, and read, and then proceed to read some more. Great Scott, Gadzooks. So the poet here reminds the parents that the rooms of children were full of books, in the past. These books contain wonderful stories about huge monsters, gypsies, queens, and princes, whales, and treasure islands. And some of these stories, The smugglers and sea robbers used to operate in boats, with covered oars. There were stories about, elephants and the, cannibals. So they used to read a lot, full of these wonderful things. Dragons, gypsies, queens, whales, and treasure isles and distant stories, and where smugglers rode with muffled oars, and pirates wearing purple pants and sailing ships and elephants, and cannibals crouching round the pot stirring away at something hot. So he also mentioned about cannibals, and who, cannibals used to eat a very sweet smelling dish, named after, Penelope, the faithful wife of Odysseus in Homer's epic poem. The Odyssey, the children who read about it wondered what the dish could be. Oh, books, what books they used to know, those children living long ago. So please, oh please, we beg, we pray, go, throw your TV set away. Then he fervently appeals to parents, you go and throw your TV set away from your home. And in that place, uh, just he appeals to parents. In its place, on the wall, install a bookshelf. And in its place, you can install a lovely bookshelf on the wall. Then fill the shelves with lot of books. Children would protest, yes, obviously, would be angry, could make dirty and angry faces, could cry loudly, might even bite, kick, and hit the elders with sticks. Parents should ignore their reactions for their ultimate benefit. Yes, this is what, going to happen. Children don't like this kind of change. They do not, in the beginning, like the bookshelves. They will do all kinds of things. But be patient with your, because you can expect ultimate benefit out of it. The screams and yells, the bites and kicks, and the children hitting you with sticks, fear not, because we promise you that in about a week or two, in just about 1 week or 2 weeks, you're going to see the result, the positive impact of bookshelves, of having nothing else to do. They will be left with nothing except, bookshelves. So what will they do? And the poet is in an assuring mode, that he tells the parents that once the television set is removed and the children start reading books, the children would be so much enamored of books that they would begin to wonder why they used to watch that stupid mission. So he says, fear not, because we promise you that in about a week or two of having nothing else to do, they will begin to feel the need of having something to read. And once they start, oh boy, you watch the slowly growing boy, that fills their hearts. They will grow so keen, they will wonder what they've ever seen in that ridiculous mission. So now they start slowly finding wonderful things, what they didn't have in the past. And they also start questioning themselves why they watched that ridiculous mission for hours together. That nauseating, foul, unclean, repulsive television screen. So he uses, that nauseating, foul, repulsive, and definitely they will repent. And they would love their parents for replacing television set with books. Yes, at the end of the day. And later, each and every kid will love you more for what you did. Now, when you replaced that idiot box or television set with lovely bookshelves, then once your children start reading, definitely, they will start reading, they will start enjoying, and they also, love you more than before, because they would realize what they missed in the past by watching television for hours together, and by just killing their imagination and killing their creative uh, capacity, and without playing, without indulging in any kind of mischievous things, without enjoying themselves. So it is the only book which which can be an effective alternative to TV set at every home. So in that way, the poet earnestly appeals to all parents to replace that idiot box, so that the children would be in a position to enjoy books and to gain the wonderful things, and to know the wonderful things in this world. Thank you. Enjoy learning.